everybody, it's Sophie and Marco Dish on the movies. Today we're going to do one of our horror movies. It's called Subspecies 1. It's the first one. I think it's just Subspecies, but I'm going to call it Subspecies 1. It came out in 1991. And the cast, I just want to say that at the beginning, we have Radu, who's Anders Hove. He's the bad guy, the bad vampire. Then we have Mara, who is Irina Morila, and she's the local Romanian girl. Then we have Laura May Tate.
No, that's Mara. Laura May Tate is Mara.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm confused. And we have King Vadislas. And normally I wouldn't have mentioned him, but Angus Grimm plays him. It happens at the very beginning of the movie. Doesn't have that big a part, but I wanted to mention him because it's a very good series, scene, whatever. And he was the tall, silent, mostly mean guy in Phantasm.
And that's actually one of the reasons that I wanted to watch this movie for this month. Was I was picking out movies, and I thought, it'd be cool to watch another movie with Angus Grimm. And I saw him like at the top billing, and let's I'll just save that for spoilers. But top billing is kind of generous when you think about it.
Okay, and then we have 3 more people. We have the good vampire. That's Stefan Vilescu. Stefan and Radu are King Vadislas' sons. And that is Michael Watson. Then there's another American girl, Lillian, who's Michelle McBride. And lastly, Carl, who is a local guy. I'm not sure if he's a priest or what, but he helps, and he knows the 2 vampires. And he's Stefan, the other vampire. He's mostly friends with him. He's played by Ivan J. Rado. All right, well, it takes place in probably 1991. That's when the movie came out. In Prešnar, Romania. And 2 American girls, Lillian and Laura May, come to the little town of Prešnar, Romania, to study Romanian folklore. They join local girl Mara, who can help translate and move within Romanian culture. Okay. In anthropology, Mara would be called an informant. A nearby castle is there, but really not publicized in the tourist literature. In fact, nobody seems to talk about it, although they do know it's there. And in this castle lives 2 vampires. One good guy who is nice looking. His name is Stefan. And the other is bad and looks like it too. In fact, Radu is his name, and he looks like a monster. What is strange about that is that they are brothers. Kicking off the movie, King Vladislas, their dad, who is portrayed by the famous Angus Grimm, like I said. That is Angus Grimm, and in the best, probably one of the best scenes in the movie that kicks off the movie, this bad boy vampire steals his dad's bloodstone, which
It is the best scene of the movie, by the way.
Which is said to contain the blood of all saints. Now, I didn't really get that watching the movie.
I did. That's the one part that I got about it, but I didn't get what it was used for besides power.
Well, I did see during the movie the bad vampire actually drink from it.
Yeah, and so I thought power.
So when a vampire possesses it and drinks the blood, it gives him we think some kind of special power or extra strength. I'm not sure about this because it wasn't clear to me. After Radu steals that bloodstone, he kills his dad. There's a lot more to this initial scene, but I gave the basics. So now it's 1991, and these two vampires are two sides of the vampire coin who have been existing on the blood of what? Local villagers, the bloodstone, all these years, and it seems that Stefan doesn't get to use the stone or suck blood from his neighbors. So, how's he getting by? I have no clue. Sorry. These three girls decide to come and visit the area. They decide to do anthropological fieldwork disguised as folklore in the movie. FYI, I have worked on several anthropology projects, so I have insider personal knowledge of this. Back to the movie. One of the girls is local and the other two are American. I won't say anything else about what the story, but what do you think is going to happen when the vampire brothers find out about their new arrivals? It's a little bit of Twilight and just the opposite where Radu is concerned.
I disagree.
Okay, it's Marco's turn now.
Okay, I just want to make sure, but I disagree. I was extremely disappointed in this movie. I was very excited for it. It was like, I would say it was the top one movie we were reviewing this month that I was looking forward to. So that's terrible, and it was so bad. Like I try to find good things in even the worst movies, such as, what was the last movie we reviewed? It's hard to think of. Oh, Peeping Tom. Well, Peeping Tom, even though it had all of that horrible censorship, I still really liked the majority of the movie.
Yes, I did too.
And I could find things in the movie that I could talk about. Oh, I like that. I like that. I like that. And with this movie, it was impossible. I mean, I was doing something else while I was watching this movie, and something important in regards to the channel, and so I was kind of half paying attention, but I just stopped what I was doing, and I just glued my eyes to the movie, because I wanted to make sure if I could find one single thing or two or something. And this movie is so bad that it actually makes you hate the good things about the movie. The main vampire in this movie, Radu, he is incredible. He could be as good or better than Christopher Lee as Dracula. But since he has this horrible script and these horrible other actors, then everything is ruined. And lack of effects, too. It seems like they had some effects troubles. And so, the main vampire, even though he is so incredible, at the end of the movie, I find myself not liking him as much as I did in the beginning because of certain things. They have this sort of fighting scene. I'm not going to say who it's with, but he looks really derpy fighting. Like, he doesn't look like a super-powered, scary vampire at all. You don't feel intimidated at all. And, in fact, before they even start fighting, he flips his hair out of his face with his hand.
It's not very monster-like.
Yeah, that's just one of the examples of the weird things in this terribly, terribly, terribly overrated movie. And I say overrated because this movie is really well known. It comes from Full Moon, and that's another reason I decided to watch this, because I love Puppet Master movies. Even though I don't like Puppet Master versus Demonic Toys, I love that movie too. But with this movie, I'm surprised that it's full moon. I mean, in a way, I'm not, because it has some of the telltale signs of a full moon picture. You had the little minion puppets, those little subspecies. I guess that
Oh, I forgot to bring that up.
the minions, they were like the puppet masters kind of thing. And then also, of course, you got to have some nudity. And this is what it felt like to me. The writer was saying, "Oh God, I'm really not a good writer, so I might as well, can maybe I should add like a breast here or there, to like every time I feel like this movie's coming to a complete standstill and nothing's happening, all of a sudden we're gonna add a couple of breasts in the picture, and hopefully people won't notice the issues with the movie, because because like you remember, with one of the people, they have a gown on, and it's like, I don't know what it's made out of. It's made out of a bunch of different red straps or something. And
That's weird.
and it's conveniently opened at both breast areas. So just
I didn't even notice that. All I
horrible.
noticed was the one.
Horrible.
It was
You
so
forgot?
brief, I forgot all about it. And I
Yeah,
should
they-
mention that in case anybody gets offended by stuff like that.
And then-
I mean, it was 2 seconds.
And then Radu likes breasts, I guess, because then there's this other person, and he's feeding off of her, and he reveals one of her breasts, and then starts feeding on her again, and pointless. And you can tell that they were just doing that because they thought that people would like that, and they would be distracted from the actual things that were going on, and
or weren't going on.
and it doesn't work for me, because it's a vampire story, and because it's just such a bad movie that it was hard to be distracted by anything. Just as I said with like how good Radu was, I couldn't be distracted by anything, but I was distracted in a bad way by the main two, quote, protagonists. You have Stefan, and then you have the boy girl, the girl who looks like a model, and all she does is stand around with the same face, just going, I'm an innocent woman, and I want to help you. I don't want to go. And she just stands around like she's made out of wood. She, and not in term, but what you're thinking, but just in terms of her body language, she's so wooden and frozen. And besides her, the wooden main girl who you're supposed to be really interested in, you also have Stefan. And I watched a behind the scenes documentary, because Full Moon, they used to do these 13-minute documentaries called Video Zones. And I used to love watching them as a kid. And I watched this one in preparation for this review, and they admitted they took this guy off a general hospital. And so no wonder he was so stupid and so wimpy and soap opera-y. And it was like watching Twilight before Twilight even existed. Even the story was the same. You have this vampire guy, and he's in love with this human girl, and oh, how can they be together if he's a vampire and she's a human? Oh, that's really interesting. Not a horror movie. And so, anyways, yeah, this movie is a huge downward spiral, which is very unfortunate, because the opening scene really starts off with a bang. The opening scene, like, even though I would rate the opening scene itself very, very, very average, a little above average, but the rest of the movie is terrible. And then Safi did not like the American girl, the blonde. Well, she didn't like both of them, but she hated the blonde. And personally, I just thought she was kind of useless, because and I'm not giving away her fate, or anything, but she just kind of disappears from the movie because she has to lay in bed. And so like she's not even a factor in the plot. And so and then I was hoping maybe the end would be good. Maybe we would get a cool fight scene. We would get some cool vampire kills. All the vampire kills were horrible. They were all either off screen or he would bite them and you wouldn't see any blood squirting out or any blood at all. The only blood that you would see would be after the fact that he's bitten them or from the bloodstone, and that leads me to believe couldn't afford effects to do the proper blood effects. So what do you think, Sophie?
Well, my review of this movie is not good. Basically, Monster Dracula Radu is a badass character. Everything he does in the movie is interesting to watch. And of course, his dad, the King Angus Scrim, is very good too. The scene at the beginning, which we talked about, with him and his son, is the best. The other actors are not good at all. The local girl, Mara, probably played herself, but she did a good job looking and acting scared. The older man who helped Stefan when he was weak and couldn't get into his casket, he was good, and he also helped battle Badu. And then I rated it with the food as, and I may have done this for another movie we reviewed a while back. I mean, it would have been a long time ago, but I'll give it the same review because it's comparable. Many years ago, we ordered a Papa John's pizza, and we would get half cheese and half pepperoni. Well, when they served it up and showed me the box, I discovered there was no cheese.
Oh, yeah.
Who eats a pizza with no cheese?
Ugh.
That is what this movie is like. There's a lot of critical missing information, and the Twilight couple, Stefan and Laura May, can't act their way out of a paper bag. So bad acting and missing info make this movie into a pizza with no cheese.
I disagree. I also think that it had a horrible script because actually I like the general plot. You have a good vampire brother and a bad vampire brother. And then you have their vampire father, who we never really found out if he was evil or he was good. I guess he was supposed to be good. And so I really like that concept, but the way that it's executed in this movie and what they do with that plot is just bad. And so I had to rate this movie something trendy, because I feel like in the 80s, vampires were very, very trendy. Like, you'd see all these different vampire movies, and they'd all be terrible, and they would have a couple of good things here and there, but overall they weren't very good. And you'd always see the same stuff. And this movie definitely feels exactly like all these other vampire movies we've seen. It copies a lot of the elements that you would expect to see, a lot of vampire cliches, and it's so funny because the dumb American girl, she says, "Oh, I'm not as dumb as we're not as dumb as you think as we look. We're not as dumb as we look." And then the whole movie, that's immediately disproven when a certain scene happens. Ow! Remember that, Sophie?
Mm-hmm.
Ow!
Well, I didn't even talk about her.
I'm not going to give it away. We're going to talk about it in spoilers. And so I had to give us something trendy and something that I generally dislike, but there might be something good in it but still it's all bad. So, what's more trendy than a pumpkin spiced latte with whipped cream, lots of whipped cream, and caramel syrup, and some graham cracker shavings on top. Now, I should preface this or whatever. I like pumpkin spice things, but it's very trendy. I like, in particular, particularly, I really like pumpkin iced cappuccinos. Is that what they're called, Safi?
I guess.
From Tim Hortons?
Oh, Frappuccino.
Okay. I really like, no, I think it's
Oh, chiller.
the ice cap.
Oh, ice cap.
Yeah, the ice cap. And so I really like that drink. But the latte, however, because it's got this horribly acidic coffee taste, which I know you're thinking all coffee tastes like that, but this pumpkin spice, well, I mean, like, coffee tastes like coffee. Like, what did you expect from a latte? Mm-hmm. But with pumpkin spice latte, it tastes so bitter. The pumpkin spice doesn't help anything. And so the pumpkin spice, I would say, is Radu. Because he's incredible. He's creepy. He's spooky. He's very well made up in terms of his makeup and his costume. I really like the fact that they kept the long fingers like Nosferatu. Mm-hmm. And then the whipped cream would be the opening scene, because it's at the top and you think that from the top that everything else down will be good, but it's not. And so that opening scene is all that beautiful whipped cream. And then the caramel syrup would probably be that one actress who played Mara, who did a good job out of all of the terrible actors in this movie, except for Radu and then his father. And then the graham cracker shavings were bad. And graham cracker shavings, I don't think they would go well with a latte. I don't know. Maybe they're soggy, and they could get soggy. They could be really messy. Mm-hmm. They could not taste well with everything else. And that was the script, because the script had all of these different errors that were sprinkled out throughout the movie. Like, oh, wait a second, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. You know what I mean, Safi? There's that one scene. And now we're going to go on to spoilers. So I give a pumpkin spice latte. Safi gives it the pizza with no cheese, which I disagree with, because a pizza is a whole story. And so I kind of disagree that it's a whole story. And so, anyway, you can see I disagree with Safi's rating as well. But with spoilers, there's this one scene where the old guy, the old wise guy, he is putting together these bullets with rosary beads.
Mm-hmm. And that's different. I don't think I've ever seen that in any vampire movie.
Yeah, it is different. And he uses them later to shoot and hurt the vampires. But in the scene, Stefan is able to pick up the rosary beads perfectly.
Without getting burned or anything. I didn't get that either. Weird. That's why I said missing information.
Little sprinkles of stupid script errors. And then you had the whole stupid festival part where everyone gets killed or taken away in plain sight. And you had this stupid gypsy going around, oh, these girls are going to wake up the devil. They're here to wake up the devil. But guess what? The devil was already living with you this whole time, and he already woke up before the girls even arrived. How does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And then she gets killed. And her kill could have been so cool, because she was a bitch. And so it would have been satisfying to see her get killed. So, you know, sometimes in horror movies you like to see certain people get killed, and because they're evil as well. Mm-hmm. And so, but there's no blood. He kills her, and it's just so dark. There's nothing that you can see. There's no blood squirting Remember the Lost Boys where there's blood just... Remember Phantasm with the little metal ball that attaches to that guy's face and then the huge blood squirt? I think that Phantasm had a lower budget than this. And the creatures, the minions, were horrible too. The minions, they did not look good enough. They looked terrible. They were struggling with them in the documentary. They showed footage of these horrible actors with suits on and trying to act like these minions in these huge sets, and they did a terrible job too. So they were stuck between a rock and a hard place with that one. So, but the thing is, if everything else in this movie was really good, then I wouldn't even care about the minions looking bad. So that goes to show. And God, that opening scene though, with like where he's in this cage and he breaks his fingers apart and throws the fingers on the floor, and that's how the minions
form from his broken fingers.
That was cool.
And then they grow back too.
And it was very creepy and gross, and it really made me excited for what was to come. And then let's talk about the girls, Therese. Because here's the gambit with the end, the trouble with the end. One of the girls, I think it was Mara. Was Mara the one who was killed last? It was either Mara or the other girl. Okay, Mara.
Well, if you want to call the girl getting killed, she wants to be a vampire.
Mara was still alive, and she was a vampire though.
Well, what happened was he got her good, and I don't think they really realized that because she was so human-like, even though she was a little frail, but she was lively.
Well, that's what I'm talking about with the off-screen kills, but I mean when they've already beaten him, when they trapped her in the chandelier, she's a vampire, and so and the girl doesn't want to kill her, but then they kill her anyway. But then here's the kicker. Then the main girl goes off and becomes a vampire herself.
Because she wants to be with him forever.
The hell? So she's allowed to be a vampire, but her friend isn't? That's stupid. That is so dumb. That doesn't make any sense, and it happens so close together. The only good kill in this whole movie was the Radu kill, but still that kill was terrible. And then, of course, you have the friend getting killed for no reason. And then you have the stupid friends throughout the movie. They're so cliche. There's so many cliches in this movie you could just go on and on about. But in general, this was just a very bad movie. I did appreciate the directing. I appreciated the music. I appreciated Radu. I appreciated the Mara character, even though she should have been the main character. And then they should have recast the Twilight guy, or they should have made him another villain, because honestly, that guy, he was the worst thing about the movie. The whole movie, I was getting sick to my stomach every time he came on screen. There's this one scene where he's pretending that he's weakened and that his powers are weakened in the sunlight, and he's just kind of like, my powers are weakened, and like he doesn't act his weakened at all. So yeah. Well,
I think that's it.
The next movie we will be reviewing is The Reanimator tomorrow. And so, yeah. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
See you soon.